Hey there. Welcome back to the English Ear Training Podcast. I'm Alan, and I'm really happy you're here with me again today. And if this is your first time listening, I'm so glad you found this podcast because it's designed to help you practice your listening skills with me. In each episode, I talk about one topic, or sometimes two, and I speak about these topics naturally. I use normal words, phrases, and expressions, but I speak a little slower and a little clearer than the average native speaker, so you can understand me better. Today's episode is all about pets. Yup, those furry, feathery, or sometimes scaly little creatures we share our lives with. This is a popular topic. I think a lot of you probably have pets, and you probably like to talk about your pets. So this should be a fun one. Let's begin. A pet is an animal that lives with you, right? Not outside in the wild, not in the jungle, but in your home, in your life. So they're not wild animals, they're domesticated. We use the word domesticated to talk about animals that have been trained to live with humans, which means they've learned how to live with people. They don't run away when they see you. They're not dangerous. They're usually friendly, or at least calm around humans. Pets aren't just animals we take care of. In many ways, they become a part of our families. You might feed them, play with them, talk to them, even though they don't talk back. And over time, you form a bond, a connection, sometimes a very deep one. One of the biggest reasons people have pets is for companionship. Now, what does that word mean? Companionship means not being alone. It's the feeling of having someone or something by your side, a friend, a presence. And pets, especially dogs and cats, are amazing companions. They don't care if you had a bad day at work. They don't judge how you look. They're just there, loyal, loving, happy to see you. When you come home from work and your dog runs up to you, wagging its tail, or your cat stretches and curls up next to you, that moment, that quiet, warm feeling is why so many people love pets. Especially for people who live alone, pets can be the best kind of company. Some pets can also help you stay healthy. Yes, healthy. Take dogs, for example. I think dogs are the most popular pet, so I'll use them as an example. If you have a dog, you know they need walks, at least once or twice a day. So what do? You put on your shoes, grab the leash, that's the thing you attach to your dog's collar, and head outside. Even when you're tired, even when it's cold, your dog makes you move. That daily walk might seem small, but over time, it helps. You stretch your legs, you get some sunlight, you breathe fresh air, and it becomes a part of your routine. So in a way, your dog becomes your personal trainer without saying a word. Pets also teach us responsibility, especially children. In many families, parents get pets to help their kids grow up with a sense of care and duty. Feeding the dog, cleaning the cat's litter box, changing the fish water, taking the rabbit to the vet.
These small tasks help kids learn what it means to care for another living being. And sometimes it's their first lesson in love and in loss. Having a pet means you're responsible for their food, their health, their comfort, even their happiness. It's not always easy, but it's real, and it teaches something no textbook ever could. Of course, it's not always sunshine and cuddles. Having a pet can also be hard sometimes. There are definitely some disadvantages. One of them is that pets take up your time. Now, this could be a good thing. For example, maybe you really enjoy walking your dog, or feeding your pet, or even cleaning their cage. Yeah, some people actually like that. If that's you, then great. It's not really a problem. But for many of us, this can feel like a disadvantage because we have to take extra time out of our busy day to care for this animal. Another disadvantage could be the space your pet needs. For example, if you have a dog, especially a big dog, then you know they often need room to move around. If they don't have enough space to run or play, they can start to feel anxious or even frustrated. So this can limit your choices. Let's say you're looking for a new place to live, maybe an apartment. But if that apartment doesn't have enough space for your dog, then it might not be a good option. You might have to choose a more expensive place with more space, or maybe a backyard, or at least some kind of outdoor area. And then there's one more disadvantage, one more con, as we say. A con is the opposite of a pro. A pro is an advantage. A con is a disadvantage. So we often say the pros and cons of something, the good parts and the bad parts. One con of having pets is that they can sometimes disrupt your life. The verb disrupt means to interrupt something, to cause a change or problem in a situation that was going fine before. We call these interruptions disruptions.
For example, maybe I'm working, I'm teaching students online, and suddenly my dog starts barking in the background, or my cat jumps on the keyboard and disrupts my class. I didn't plan for that, but it happened, and I have to deal with it. That's a small example, but pets can also disrupt bigger things, like your travel plans. If you have pets, you can't just leave for a week without thinking. You need someone to take care of them. Maybe a friend, or maybe you have to hire someone, which can be expensive. And let's be honest, pets can be messy. Pee on the carpet, fur on the couch, scratches on the furniture. Yep, it happens. So yeah, there's a lot to think about when you have animals in your life. Let's talk a little more about dogs, and then we'll move on to cats. We'll focus on these two animals. So dogs are probably the most common type of pet. In many countries, people generally like dogs, and when they think of pets, dogs are usually the first animal that comes to mind. Of course, that might not be true everywhere, but I'm just speaking in general. Here in the West, dogs are king. They're extremely popular for a number of reasons, so let's talk about the pros and cons of owning a dog. First, the best thing about having a dog is that it can feel like having a friend. Dogs are usually friendly, and they like being around humans. As we say in English, dogs are man's best friend. And it really feels true. We have that deep in our culture, the idea that dogs are friendly and that they're good companions for humans. So if you come home from work, or from school, or something like that, you open your door, your dog is always there, happy to see you. They're super excited that you're home, and this feels really nice as the owner, right? To have that kind of attention from your animal. That's one big advantage. Another pro is that dogs are fun. You can actually play with them. There are many kinds of games and activities you can enjoy together. If you take them to the park or to a dog park, you can run around with them and play fetch. Fetch is the game where you throw a ball and the dog runs after it and brings it back to you. This is called fetch in English. So yeah, you can play fetch with them and do many other fun things.
Dogs are really fun animals, and they often play with each other too. If you go to a dog park, you'll see the different dogs running around and playing together. And one other advantage of choosing a dog as a pet is that there's a huge variety of dogs. So there's a different type of dog for different types of people. Some people like tiny dogs that can fit in a handbag. Others prefer big dogs that can protect the house and are often smarter than smaller dogs. So there are so many breeds or types of dogs, each with its own look, personality, and needs. But of course, there are also some disadvantages to owning a dog. One of them is the barking. So, barking refers to the sound that dogs make when they're excited or angry or whatever. Dogs bark a lot. Some dogs bark more than others. But in general, if you're a dog owner, you have to deal with barking. It's just a fact of life, and it can disturb your neighbors and the people around you. If you have a sleeping baby, a barking dog is not a good thing, so that's definitely one con. Another downside of having a dog is that you have to pick up after your dog. When we say pick up after your dog, we mean cleaning up when your dog goes to the bathroom. You can't just leave the product there. You have to pick it up afterward. If you're a dog owner, this is your responsibility. Most people really don't enjoy this part, but it's just something you have to do. It's part of being a good dog owner. And there's one more con: training. You need to train your dog, especially when it's young. If you don't train your dog, it might behave badly. It could bark too much, jump on people, or cause problems in your home. But if you take the time to train your dog early, it will learn good habits and become a much better pet later on.
Now, let's talk a little bit about cats. The advantages of having cats are a little different. For example, cats are independent. This could be an advantage because you don't always need to spend time with them. You don't need to dedicate as much effort or energy to your cat, like you do when you have a dog. That's one advantage. Another advantage is that cats are low maintenance in general. This is similar to what I just said, but more than just being independent, they also don't require as much cleaning as much training and those types of things because they're different animals than dogs. They behave differently. They're not as dirty. They don't cause as many problems. They're low maintenance, as we say in English. When we say that something is low maintenance, we just mean that it doesn't require a lot of your effort, energy, attention, or money. So cats are low maintenance. And I think I also just mentioned they're clean compared to dogs. Dogs make huge messes, and you have to pick up after them. With cats, I think it's easier. I've never had a cat before, but cat owners tell me that cats are easier to clean, and you don't have to do as much cleaning with them in general. Now, some of the cons of having a cat are that they're not as friendly as dogs. If you want a pet that acts like a close friend, a pet that plays with you a lot and enjoys being touched, then a cat might not be the best choice. We also use the word pet as a verb. When you pet an animal, it means you touch it gently with your hand. You move your hand slowly over its fur. People often pet dogs like this. Dogs usually like being pet. They enjoy it. But many cats don't like it. Sometimes they don't want you to touch them at all. So cats are usually not as affectionate as dogs. Affectionate means they like to be close to you and show you love. Dogs show more affection than cats, in most cases.
And another disadvantage of having cats is that many people are allergic to cats. This can be a problem if you want to invite guests to your house. You might not know they're allergic, and they might feel sick around your cat. So, what are some of the other types of pets that people have, besides cats and dogs? Of course, cats and dogs aren't the only pets. Some people keep birds, like parrots or parakeets. They're colorful, they sing, they can even talk. Others love fish, peaceful and beautiful to watch. Then there are rabbits, hamsters, turtles, snakes, lizards, even spiders or insects for some people. Each pet has its own charm. Some are playful, some are just relaxing to watch. And some, like fish, don't need much. You don't walk them, you don't train them, you just feed them, clean the tank, and enjoy. They're quiet companions, but still part of your life. So, one last thing I should mention is the way people treat animals in different countries. And this is especially true for dogs, probably more for any other animal. In some places, dogs are like family. They sleep on your bed, they wear sweaters in the winter, they even go with you to the cafe. In other countries, dogs usually live outside. They guard the house, they're not allowed indoors, and people don't treat them like family members. Then there are stray dogs, dogs with no home at all. In many countries, you see them on the street. People might ignore them or even be afraid of them. But in places like the US, people often try to help stray dogs. If someone sees a dog without a collar, they usually try to find the owner. They might take the dog home or bring it to a shelter. In fact, many Americans treat their dogs like children. They talk to them like babies, they celebrate their birthdays, some even cook special meals for them. It might seem strange, but for some people, pets really are like sons and daughters.
So, are pets worth it? I think
Yes. They require time. They cost money. Sometimes they interrupt your sleep. They make a mess. But in return, they give you love. Real love. Without words, without judgment. Just pure, honest companionship. They teach us how to care, how to slow down, how to love something or someone that depends on us. Whether it's a loyal dog, a quiet cat, or a tiny fish, a pet can change your life in beautiful, simple ways. So, that's all for today's episode. I hope this gave you some new vocabulary, some things to think about, and maybe even made you smile. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend who's learning English too. And as always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode of the English Ear Training Podcast.